You're listening to the Clean Comedy Podcast with your host, James Creviston.
Hey everybody, it's James. Welcome to the Clean Comedy Podcast, and today we have a great guest. He's a former Hollywood personality with appearances on Friends, MTV Showtime, and he was the former host of the TV show and radio segment, the Hollywood Rockin Wrap-Up. He's an 18-year veteran of television stage. 18 years. That's amazing. And he's also an award-winning martial artist and sensei in karate. I believe it's Shotokan karate. Maybe I'm pronouncing it wrong.
Nope, you're good.
All right. Please welcome the very funny, the very talented Rocky Whatule. Welcome, Rocky. Welcome.
Hello, and again, I realized where you got my bio from, because that is we're not that anybody's counting, but we're now at 25.
Oh wow!
I started in 2018 or no, sorry, 1918. Good God, my math. Oh, Jesus,
1918. I performed for Lincoln.
Yeah. Like oh yeah, oh Lincoln, you're so funny with that Emancipation Proclamation. Oh, I'll pick my own stuff. Oh, you're just so funny, Lincoln.
I went over to World War II and I helped the troops.
I love the beard and that.
We're doing so many things. You're a time traveler. That's what you're telling me right now.
Apparently, 2000. Oh, good God, 1998 is. Should we just start over?
No, this is perfect. This is exactly conversations comedians
There
have.
are type A personalities, and I am a type ADHD personality, and this is what we're going to deal with today. No, I started in 98. I started writing in 96, when I graduating high school, because now I'm dating myself. All of the organizations, I played hockey, I was in martial arts, and then all of the organizations that I did, they're like, we need an MC for a banquet, or we need an MC for an awards presentation, or can you honor somebody? Can you get up there and talk? And I'm like, yeah, sure, it would be great. And so
Okay.
I started writing jokes, and specifically about the martial arts we started, and those were always fun. And then my brother is also a comic, and he started doing the Funny Bone in Pittsburgh. And so I'm like, I want to do the Funny Bone in Pittsburgh. And I'll never forget it. It was a bringer show. So this is back in 98, because I got to do the math. I went 10 years of my life without front teeth because I had them knocked out playing hockey. So I'm trying to think of because I'd already had my teeth out. So yeah, 98. And it was 3 minutes, and I fell in love. Like, boom, this is what I want to do. And I was teaching all of the little kids at the karate school too. So I was in charge of basically 12 and under. And if you make kids laugh, they pay attention. I realized you only remember things that scare the crap out of you or make you laugh. That's like, when it comes to like drama movies, like I'm like, I can't remember any. Yeah, recite a line from Still Magnolias. I'm like nothing. I can quote anything from Happy Gilmore. It's you balance it out. So I thought, I do this for little kids. How hard would it be for adults? And then the rest is history. So yeah, so it's over 25 years if I do the math real quick in my head. But I've been loving it. It's I walked away for a while, which we can talk about that later. But I walked away for a while, came back, and realized that it's like falling off a bike.
Yeah. As long as you're still we're talking to people and like not in a coma, you could probably go right back to comedy. Maybe you could come out of a coma and go do comedy. I don't know. Like I'm not a doctor. What do I know?
Right.
So you've been doing karate. Did your love of karate start with like the Karate Kid movie? Because that's what got me into karate when I was a kid. That's why I'm asking.
So it's a great funny story, and I actually get to repay my best friend back right now because he has written a book called Common Sensei. He's my former teammate. He's my instructor. His father is our head instructor. And he wrote a book called Common Sensei. It's coming out. It'll be a #1 bestseller. It's basically a book for the Gen Z, everybody under the age of like 32 that just can't figure out things like how to address an envelope. Like this.
Right.
And so it's really a tell-all book about our childhood and growing up. And so he talks about me a lot. I've been written in 3 different books. Like I've interviewed authors that they're like, hey, there's this guy Rocky, and this is what he did. Janae Sergio with she has a book called From Homeless to Hero, and where she was 15 years old living on the street, and now she's a an ex-Navy vet, or I wouldn't say an ex-Navy, but a Navy veteran. And she's just doing amazing things. So she wrote about me where she had lost all faith in males, and I was a guy that kind of took care of her for a little bit, cared about her. And when she like, I wrote about you in the book, I'm like, oh God, like I want to do, because I wasn't always that guy,
Right.
But that being said, bring back the ADHD roller coaster. I met my best friend at school, and he and I, actually, no, we became best friends at school, but we met 2 years prior at a birthday party, and I was a hockey player, and pretty good hockey player, and playing tier 2 and tier 1 at the time. And he was a karate guy. And yes, Karate Kid had come out. What else was big? Ninja Turtles hadn't come out yet, but it was that anything,
that era.
Yeah, anything ninja, anything, we're 9 years old. Anything that was, I loved it. G.I. Joe, Snake Eyes, all that stuff. And so he's talking about being a karate expert, and well, not necessarily expert, but just like a national champion. And he had competed many different places. And so I'm like, oh, so you're a black belt. And I come to realize now, teaching, you don't have to be a black. You can be a brown belt. You can be somebody who just trains a lot, and the rank doesn't mean anything. And if you look back at Karate Kid, Danielson actually got his black belt in, what was it, by the end of the movie.
Yeah.
That was like 9 months, less than, because he was in school. But I didn't know that at the time. And I'm like, well, you can't be a black belt if you're not, or you can't be a champion if you're not a black belt. And this led to fisticuffs, really, at a birthday party, where I basically get into a fight. Oh my digital background just popped in. Do you realize? Do you see that? I don't know how my computer's like. I guess my computer didn't even like the story. He's like, I'm gonna go do something else. But anyway, that's actually my brother behind. Like that's what I started with this morning, like waiting for you. Anyway, why did I digress? So we go outside, and I'm dropping the gloves. I start swinging, and he beat the crap out of me. Turns out he is a karate instructor. Slam my head, and it turned quickly from like the Karate Kid into
WWE.
Yeah, less blood sport, WWE. Like he's jumping off, brick walls, elbowing me. I'm like,
there you go.
And about a year and a half after that, 2 years later, we both end up in another party where, like, I left the birthday party. I was embarrassed, and I ran home. And 2 years later, we show up at a party, and instantly we're on the same team playing kickball, best friends, and we've been there ever since. And so I only wanted to get to a green belt to become a better hockey player, be more flexible, be more more athletic, and if I had to fight, learn how to throw a punch or two, and then end up being pretty good at it. And that's what led me into stand-up comedy. Was more than anything was karate and martial arts, because this was going to get me into a lot of trouble, and so karate helped me balance that out.
That's a good way in. And I always try to explain to my wife, like, how guys become friends, because girls, if they're like enemies, they just stay enemies. Like there's not really a chance of them becoming friends. But my guys, if we get into a fight and then like we come back around and we're like, all right, now there's another level of respect, like this mutual level of respect. Yeah. And my wife doesn't get it.
No. And I actually went back to playing hockey. Like I played last night. Our team is horrible. We have lost like our goalie's problem is if you shoot on him. Like if nobody shoots on him, he's fine. But like the puck hit him in the chest and ended up in the back of the net. I'm like, hey, Houdini. I'm like, I don't even know how that happened. Like seriously. But last night, like my body's I'm recovering. I'm 45.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of injuries. I got a finger that still looks like that. Look how
Oh wow.
that thing is. Um, but out of 5 games, last night was the first night I didn't get a penalty or ejected for fighting. And
Wow.
like, my fiance's like, you can't get into a fight. You're like 45 years old. Just get out there and play hockey. And but don't you understand hockey? We're banging into each other and you got
Right.
sticks involved. Like it's violent to begin with.
Yep. That's
So
exactly right. That's super funny. Like, is it ice hockey, roller hockey? Like, what kind of hockey is it?
ice hockey. So
Oh.
I started playing he's gone again.
You're like a magician.
I'm pretty sure there's a ghost in my MacBook. So I started playing ice hockey at the age of 4, and here now it's ringing. See that? This is what I get for not silencing my phone. All right. I started playing when I was 4 at ice hockey, and roller hockey was okay for like training and getting,
Right.
but I could never. I actually got into um, a fight where somebody cheap shotted one of my players. I was playing roller hockey out in Reseda at the YMCA. I'm actually not allowed to play at any YMCA's. And I got 86. So this guy and he sticks me right in the chest with his stick and snapped the blade of his stick off. And I'm like, and I had lost it. I'd been out of martial arts for a while. So that was like just a pent up, we got to use this stuff, right? And I chase after the guy and I grab him by the shoulder. And as I spin him around to punch him, out of nowhere, the ref came in between us. And
Oh no.
And I just clock the ref. And he just goes down. I'm like, yeah, I'm out. So in the state of California, when you hit you get into an altercation on the ice or on a football field or at a baseball field, and you strike an official, it's a full felony. That of which hitting a police officer, you're hitting the same thing happens. Truly, like if you hit a security, it actually depends on what the contract is. But if if you're hitting a security guard or someone that they're deemed to protect, like a security guard at a courthouse is just like punching a sheriff, like
right.
that kind of a thing. Security guard at 99-cent store, not so much, but So but I loved it, and I've
Wait, did you get a felony? Did they like?
No.
Okay, they were cool. They were cool about it.
They were cool about it because they realized that the referee did. Like I've been a ref since 90. I've been a ref since 97, and took some time off when I came out here to California from Pittsburgh. And I've been back reffing last 5 years. And so they teach you things like don't get in the middle of a fight, or when you get in the middle of a fight, if you get hit in the middle of a fight, it's different than if a guy
someone fighting you
punches you in the face, right?
Right. Yeah.
So I chose to just go, hey, listen, I showed up, I pled my case. I'm like, I'm so sorry, and I'll bow out graciously, and they accepted it. And that was in 2000 when I first came out to California. So wow. Ice hockey's better anyway. So
yeah. Ice hockey is good. I rollerbladed growing up because I grew up in Texas. There was no ice hockey, but right. I took my daughter to like New York, and you could like skate around Rockefeller or whatever. And I've never ice skated in my life. I put those things on and I was like, oh, I could do this. And I literally was like all the way. I was like, oh, it's just like regular skating. I'm okay. I don't know why I thought it was going to be so different. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's fun to watch people that roller skate, not rollerblade, because rollerblade is more smooth. But you'll get people, and they're like they look like slides go out there with their skates. And we're like, just glide.
Yeah, but that is funny.
Yeah, so it's been a fun journey, and to get back into that.
Do you feel like the ability as like in martial arts where you can kind of focus and whatever, do you think that helps you translate well to stand up? Like, does it help you better with like writing jokes or being calm on stage or dealing with stuff that would otherwise be upsetting, maybe hecklers or something like that? You feel like that helps a lot?
So it's interesting. I'm still very, very quick. Like somebody will say something, I got to control my mouth, and it's a reaction time in karate. Like I preach to kids and adults that the two main things that are ruining the world today as a whole is laziness and lack of first-time obedience, where that goes internally, where somebody punches and I block and I'm just waiting to react. I'm not being obedient to my body's reaction time to preserve itself. So
Right.
I block and counter. And this type of karate we do, the fight philosophy is actually to kill with one technique. It's very dark. But there's not a lot of bang, 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 bang. There's not,
Right.
there's not the perfect weapon Kempo style where you're tick, 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 or Ip Man. It's one and done. And a lot of my fights, even when my semi-pro years playing hockey, were one shot drop. You'll see those fights in the NHL where it's just, it was right on the money. But for me, reacting that way on stage, back when, say, I went completely clean 11 years ago. Well, that's fun portion of today's story, or today's topic, that story. But back before that, I let a heckler step into the ring, and it was the worst thing that they were ever going to experience. And there was a lot of things where God gave me a really good gift of discernment, and I used to use it for evil, absolute evil. Where I'd look at somebody and I had one girl who she just wouldn't stop talking, and she was drunk, and she obviously just needed the attention. And I must have called her everything but a human being, but almost specific, like things that as a comedian were like, oh, I guess, and I'm not even gonna go into it because this is a clean
Right.
podcast and it's not worth it. But I had a guy come up to me, they're like, dude, I am like, you should go play the lottery. I'm like, what are you talking about? They're like, yeah, she just lost her house, she had her kids taken away, she was molested as a child. And I'm like, oh my God. Like and in reality, in my mind, I'm just guessing, but it was, so again, knowing how to do things and knowing when and when not to was not something that I had way back then. Right
Right.
now, definitely focusing, especially with ADHD, um, and being able to flow. In martial arts, we can't be so rigid that you're just,
Yeah.
you see the rigid fighters, especially in MMA, they go down.
They do.
But for the guys that flow a little bit more, you can come back to wherever you are. Like my brother, which was on the picture, he was the goofball. Actually, he was the goofball on this side. Um, he has such severe ADHD that if you talk or you heckle him, man, he'll have to start the show over. Like he's
Oh
got to go
wow.
back to the beginning. And I've actually put that into my act as an ode to him, to make fun of him when somebody
That's
will heckle me.
so
But the reality of it is, he is so like, this is my act. And I watched Robin Williams for years. I'm like, this man's written every single thing that he says, but he makes it look like he's just grabbing at everything.
flawless.
He knows where he's going. And I love the comics that do that, as opposed to um the this is my story, I'm going to here, I'm going to here, I'm going to
Yeah.
here. Gary Seinfeld was great. Not that I don't like them. It's just it's not my style.
Style. Right.
Again, and here's, of course, I'm on camera, so my cat just jumped up here.
so
Go
so
on.
I did martial arts, I did MMA. I did karate when I was a kid, then I did MMA in my 20s and stuff. And I agree with the whole go with the flow thing. My whole thing was I was so uncomfortable with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Kickboxing, Muay Thai, boxing, love it. I'll stand up and throw punches and kicks all day long. Getting on my back and having another person climb on top of me was not fun. That was like the thing. So I never got past like a blue belt or yeah, I think it was a no. Yeah, it might have been a blue belt. And I like could never. I was like, I can't do this. This is not for me. I don't want.
So my philosophy is, and my students laugh when I say this. Go, if we're on the ground, anything that's in my face, I'm biting it. Like I don't care.
You can't do
And
that in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu though.
exactly. Well, see, that's the other thing. There are rules to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah.
In traditional Japanese Jiu-Jitsu, there's no rules. Like it's very hard to practice without getting hurt.
Right.
Hapkido is ridiculous. I mean, I have no idea on how these guys don't get hurt when I watch them train Hapkido. And even though Shotokan is our base, here's a little, go and research the movie for all of you guys that are watching. It's a movie called Tough Guys. It's out on Amazon Prime. You can rent it and watch it there. Showtime released it. Morgan
Okay.
Spurlock was the executive producer.
Oh.
And that is about Bill Viola, who essentially is my second father. That's my best friend's dad. In
Okay.
1980, him and Frank Caligiuri created what we know today as the sport of MMA. UFC made it popular, but
Popular. Yeah.
the short snippet of the movie, and it explains everything. It's a great documentary. Um, the the long and the short of it was they just sat around in a bar one day and like, who would win? A wrestler, a fighter, Bruno Santini, who's the best? And so they created a competition called Tough Guys, where it was tournament style and winner take all. And these guys, and it was in Pittsburgh, such a blue collar town where these guys, there's a reason why the movie Rocky was in Pittsburgh, or I mean, sorry, Philadelphia, because Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, that Pennsylvania region was just about hard, working class,
yeah.
looking for that break. And so they pitched it. And so there was an Ohio, Pittsburgh area, so Western PA. I think they did a couple fights in New York, and then somebody duplicated it in Detroit, had a fatality, and they weren't even doing no holds barred. You could go to the ground, you could wrestle, you could do whatever you wanted. They were doing only boxing in Detroit, but they didn't have the proper medical, they didn't have the proper referees, and there was a fatality. And so it was a Congress came in and said no. There was actually an indictment that was against them, that Frank Caligiuri and Bill Viola couldn't put these on ever again.
Wow.
And so later, UFC comes along, and later Dana White's like, I created the sport. I'm like, it's been around. And not only that, it had been around like after a little bit after 1980s, people started doing these underground all over the country.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but even training in that, and that being, our family lineage, if you will, never liked it. Like, I've trained in it. I fish hook a guy in his mouth. They're like, you can't do it. I'm like, dude, you're about to choke me out. Like, doesn't work that way. So, all right. But yeah, I'm with you.
Perfect. Now, you said you mentioned that you went clean 11 years ago. What kind of shifted you that way? Because a lot of comedians will, when they start out, they do want to be blue. They do want to talk about whatever and stuff. And then they slowly realize, maybe 3 to 5 years in, if I can do clean stuff, I can do corporate, I can do privates, I can do a bunch of these other things. But it seems like you had a longer career, and then you came at the end of it saying, maybe I should be clean now.
So my story, and I'm so happy I get to tell it today. I started off, I was dirty. I was younger, and still this kind of baby face, and and even the thing is, and I might get some pushback from this. I don't like when the female comics, the prettier they are, the more raunchy they can get away with, because they're so pretty. And a lot of times that's the way society is. And I'm talking about the real women. Listen, I'm talking about biological women. That's where I stand. Like, sorry guys, or guys that are whatever you think, right? And so as much as I didn't like that, I realized I got away with so much because of my, he's so adorable. Somebody once, twice actually, I was compared with Charlie Chaplin, the lovable little scamp, the guy that could get away with everything. And they're like, that's kind of how you are on stage. And then somebody else also compared me, because they said, what killed your acting career were talkies. And hey, it kind of hurt. But for me, I could say things. As a matter of fact, National Lampoon's owned my original CD, and because they own the digital rights, I still can't stop it from being sold. I was able to limit how you can find it. Like, unless you search for
Is that the ping pong one?
Yeah, unless you search for comedy ping pong, you can't just type in Rocky Whatule and I'll pop up. At least it's not supposed to. And it was on Amazon, it was on YouTube, and I pushed really hard to get it down. Now I still get residual checks, and I just tied the 100% of that to the church. I'm like, I'm sorry, Jesus. Because there's some stuff on there. That entire CD would be cancel cultured today.
There's some funny stuff on there, though. So I mean, I get where you're coming from, but it is funny.
It wasn't funny.
Right, yeah, it's funny.
In fact, my fiance heard it. She's like, "Oh my God, I love this."
It is hilarious. It is hilarious. That's why I was like, wait, I thought he was clean, because we talked at a show, and I was like, wait, I thought he was clean, and he was like, oh, okay, this is from like, well, at least then it was like 2008, 2009, something like that.
Yeah, it was way early, and then I think it was even earlier than that. The digital release kept coming back around. I had to pull it off of. Well, nobody buys CDs at Walmart anyway.
Right. Yeah.
But, I was ahead of the curve. But that whole realm of my world, there's a whole dark side to where comics travel. Like they travel, and then they find their addictions, whether it's drug or alcohol. And I kept, I was in the party scene, and I had to stop. I tried to save my marriage at the time, and I gave up stand up overnight. I had 3 more tours. I had a couple casinos in Reno that I was under contract, so I couldn't get out of that. And then I walked away from it. I went back to martial arts and went into my roots there. And about 2 years after that, I felt another calling on my heart to come back to the world of stand up comedy, but I was going to be completely clean. So I remember uh, Jerry Seinfeld's his last stand up uh,
Yeah.
performance or concert, where he had gotten rid of every joke and started all over again. I'm like, all right, that's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to go clean with it, and realize that if you're funny and clean, the world, like the comedy world, can really be your oyster. But if you're campy and funny, still clean, so my rule of thumb, um, the rule of thumb for especially for the comics that watch this, if you're not sure what blue is, or don't be dirty. My brother was the one that created this. Anything that goes in or comes out of the body, we don't talk about. That's clean. And then and I'll still, I might have a poop joke here or there that you can get away with, but
especially if you're talking about kids, like then you can get away with it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But past that, if you ever have to go, well, hey, is this joke clean? It's not. If you have to ask the question, should I tell it? No. And so my rule is it has to be funny enough to work in a nightclub, but it has to be clean enough that I could tell Sunday morning at church.
Right.
And if my joke fits both of those worlds, or I can tell it in a way that it will play, then I'm going to do it, because when we get to this corporate style level, you never know what joke could cost you a really, really important job, And so I just worked with Jimmy Fallon. Love Jimmy. Very funny, very clean. But he swore a couple times, and it wasn't. Yeah, I know. And like they're like, we want you to open for him, and I'm great. I got paid headliner money to open, and they only wanted 20 minutes. And Jimmy's like, do whatever you want. So I'm like, well, I mean, can I do 30? He's like, 2:45. And I did 45, and it was great. Jimmy loved it, and we became friends. And he, he got up there, and he had dropped some swear word. The content of what he joked about, like, it wasn't blue. I'd given it PG-13 at best.
Okay.
But I was surprised. I was a little bit surprised, but I've seen comics do that, and there's a corporate person for Microsoft in the audience. They're like, yeah, we can't have him perform, because they have such a degree of liability that you offend the wrong person, that you can't have that. So yeah, 11 years ago, actually 12. Sterling just turned 12. It was right when he was born. I made that change, and I've not regretted it since. The money has been better. There's less chance. There were some stories where, like, I had a joke about Down syndrome that, and my heart was pro. Let's look at everybody the same. But what I never really did look at was the heart or the attitude, or what parents endure dealing, or not dealing, but handling a child with special needs.
Right.
And I had somebody come up to me after a show and was utterly offended, and I had taken the direction of, my brother and sister-in-law at the time were trying to have a kid, and they would have gladly accepted any child,
Right.
with a syndrome or not. But I would totally miss the other side of it. And so later, and I had another friend of mine, and she helped me understand it, and that kind of really sparked the wheels turning, going, what am I doing? And so when I was the show, the Hollywood Rockin Wrap-Up, it was every day. It was, every day, 1 minute piece about Hollywood trash, and just, people, drug addictions to, I made a lot of money off of Lindsay Lohan, the Kardashians, and, Bruce, then Caitlyn Jenner. And now I look back on it, and I made fun of celebrities because well, that's okay. And
Right.
really, it's not. They they have feelings too. The difference between me and a troll was my stuff was funny, and I was doing it on the radio. And then
Right.
we made a TV show out of that, and we launched the same time Tosh.0 launched.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, well, there you go. That's the same thing. John DeResta, like we call it the John. I don't know if you know John. No,
Yeah, I do know, John.
John. It's called the John DeResta. Not syndrome, but scenario where John launched his show the same night King of Queens launched. And it was almost identical. You had the grandfather, you had everything, and John DeResta, like you have to pick one or the other.
Yeah.
Well, was it Ferris Bueller, and then there was another one that launched when they did the TV show. It was not Clarissa Explains All, but there were two shows, and nobody ever remembers the other show because, again, when I was younger, I'll never forget these shows. I'm like, my gosh, like everybody forgets that. I can't even remember the other title. But that all being said, the ability to be clean, and I now have 3 little comedians in my house. And I got to watch what I say, because I once told a joke about this, and my son, who's now in high school and taking Spanish, he came home and he's like, "Hey, Dad," I'm like, I'm quizzing him on his Spanish words. I'm like, "How do you say work in Spanish?" And he says, "Mazatlan." I'm like, "Buddy, that's a city." And he goes, No. When they work, they Mazatlan." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" And that was one of my jokes. I'm like, no more, dude. Like, come on, man, you're gonna. Can't even call the principal's office. I'm like, oh my gosh. So, but the clean world is where I like to be. And again,
That's awesome.
Change lives too. Like getting people to laugh was was always my goal. And as a comedian, if you can't make people laugh, you shouldn't be doing this. It's, can I inspire people? And I was trying to do it in almost a boomerang way, where I wanted them to laugh first, and at the end of the night, if they're like, "Huh, yeah, I like the way that guy thinks," or maybe, yeah. But now, like, I really want people to walk out of there going, "Hey, I got kids at home. Like, what am I doing with my kids? Like, what is the main problem with kids today? How, have we swung so far the other direction that we've pushed for some people to have rights so much that we've actually everybody's lost rights." And so these are the things that and I've never been a political comedian, and nor will I ever say that I am. But how do we get back to where funny is just funny?
Yeah.
So I got deep there for a second.
No, that's good. That's exactly right. I mean, that's I think a lot of times when someone hears, "Oh, you're a clean comedian," they go, "But are you funny?" I've had people say that. "Well, are you funny?" And I'm like, yeah, of course. I can't call myself if otherwise I'm just giving TED Talks, dude. Like if it's not funny, it's just a TED Talk. Like what are you talking about?
Well,
so,
I love that. I love that question, because you want to go, no, actually, I'm not. But
yeah,
not everybody that goes to work does their job. But
that's true.
For it.
Sadly, that's also true. Unfortunately, that is true. Now, where can people find you? Where can they find your comedy? Where can they watch stuff? And are you gonna do a special or a new album anytime soon? That kind of stuff.
I was on my way pressed. We were lining up. We were going to do a special years ago, but that was a
pandemic.
It was long before pandemic. It was It was dirty. It was like, hey, this is where we're gonna go. So I kind of put that on hold, but more and more now, every day I'm like, and every show they're like, you need to do a DVD, and it's funny, yeah, DVD. Like, just do a DVD. Like, nobody does DVDs anymore, Rocky. Like, just do a special, sell it to Netflix.
Why don't you do a Betamax?
Yeah, do a beta. Yeah, exactly. Like, this is
a cassette. Sell me a cassette.
Yeah. So yeah, like I watch, like, I sell my stickers after a show, and we're designing new T-shirts and stuff. And I did a show where a guy's like, "Hey, here's my digital download. Go ahead." I'm like, digital download? I'm like,
yeah.
Listen, for every one digital download you sell for $1, 13 people are getting it for free. I'm losing money by standing here trying to sell a digital download. Yeah. But so Stand Up Wise, they can find me at rockyw.com. That's my website. I'd say 80% accurate. We've got some things in the works. One of the things I did is And I'll have to send it over to you. I don't know if you want to bookend it at the end of the podcast, but
Okay.
the parody of the most interesting man in the world, which is the most spiritual man in the world, and a lot of churches have used it. And I want to delve into that deeper. We probably wrote a good, I'd say maybe at least 8, 9 episodes, little commercials and snippets, and I just want to get back to producing those. But mainly corporate stuff. My bread and butter right now is emceeing bar and bat mitzvahs. That's been my key since 2000.
Wow.
And I'm actually partners. I owned a company, merged that company with Spotlight LA. So shameless plug, spotlightla.com. But I, you know, more than just being the comedian, but being the host of, of a party, whether it's a corporate event or a wedding or a mitzvah or birthday party, and those are just so much fun, and
Yeah.
dealing with crazy Jewish moms. We pitched out a reality show all about the event industry, and so we're just kind of shopping that around. So anybody that watches this, like, that does documentaries, shameless plug, I've got a lot of projects in the works. For those out of work producers out there that are like, I need a project,
There you go.
give me a call. But RockyW.com, the karate school website. Actually, if you go to senseirocky.com, I own that. That's always fine because nobody can ever spell Whatule,
Right. Yeah.
W Sensei Rocky. And then like tonight I'm actually down in North Hollywood. Well, actually by the time this airs, that show.
Yeah, it'll be over.
I love podcasts.
Yeah.
But I'm down there, and I become bougie. Like I don't leave my house unless I'm it's a paid show, which, as you know, in Hollywood, like comics, they barely get paid a soft drink anymore because
street ticket.
Yeah, that's it. Here you go. Did you bring friends? Give me that ticket back. And so, but yeah, that's pretty much it. And I love the podcast here. Well, now I get to interview you. Like, what started you in doing the clean comedy?
Well, there's a lot. It was really just a way to be able to talk to other comedians and pick their brain, and then be able to take that information and share with more people. Because a lot of people, if you're in Ohio or the Midwest or whatever, and there's not a lot of professional comedians around you, you're kind of guessing on the internet. You're going to Reddit or you're going to Twitter. How do I do this? And then you get 1,000 people that never have done stand-up tell you how to do stand-up, right? So it's not a great way to do it. Or you read the books and you go, okay, well, this worked in 1997, but it's not 2023. Those same things aren't going to work.
I think it was Judy Carter's book that I open up and it's like, if you're any one of these things, just skip to the back of the book. Don't read the book. I'm like, done. That was the easiest book to read. I fell under the youngest and Italian. Done.
Yeah. But that worked in like the 90s, but like now it's like, no, that's not going to work for you and stuff, And so I have like a teenage daughter, and she's also the comedian in my house, and she says the funniest stuff, and I'm like, let me help you do stand up. Like, you would murder, and it would be so good because she's so cutesy and sweet, but the things she says are so vicious and just like, but they're funny and they're clean, but they're just like this attitude that you like, that 90s Valley Girl attitude is what she does. It's so good. I love it. And I'm like, come on.
All three of my kids. So like, I'll share these last couple because I don't know how much time we have, or you probably have.
Yeah, we're wrapping up in a minute, but yeah.
So I got a couple. So Easter, we get done at Easter, and my fiance is in law enforcement, and so we're walking around, and my kids, my oldest is a black belt, my middle child's testing for his black belt here in August, and the youngest one is pain. And so he like it'll come to him when it comes time it'll come to him. Like he's the baby. And so we're walking, and he was acting up. I forget what he said. But my answer to him was like, and Michelle is her name, and they call her Mama Michelle. I'm like, Mama Michelle and Dad, we're superheroes. And he looks at me, he's like, Dad, Mama Michelle's a superhero. She fights crime. You're just a sensei. Like, just like, where does that come from, man? And my oldest, like, and he's been this way, and he writes a lot of my stuff right now, and comes up, like, hey, Dad, what do you think of this? And he came up with one that I'm like, I'm going to flush out. He's like, what if you could rent your grave until it's time to, until it's time for you to live? Like some people rent an apartment into this is their retirement home. And I'm like, dude, like, are we going to flush that out? I was like, Jesus borrowed a rented grave. I'm like, dude, you're brilliant. But when he was like 7, I want to say 7, he went with me to a show. I was doing this church show, and it was about 7. And I said, why don't you get up there? And we wrote some jokes. Like his opening joke is it cute and adorable in here, or is it just me? And I'm like,
Yeah.
dude, it's awesome, right? So we
Yeah.
get in this room and he looks around. He's like, oh, I can't do it. I can't do it. I'm scared. And I'm like, oh, you'll be fine. He's like, no, I can't do it. I'm like, all right, that's fine. Because he was going to be my opener. Like, how great was just this cute little kid, the opener? And so I'm getting into the last joke and he's raising his hand. And I'm like, hey, buddy. I go, I got one more joke. We'll get out of here. He's like, no. And he's in the audience raising his hand. I'm like, Remy, what's up? He's like, do you have to go to the bathroom? He's like, no, I want to tell my jokes now. I'm like, well, the show's over, man. You can't. I'm the headliner. He's like, but I want to tell my jokes. I'm like, but headliner, dude. So like I got upstaged by my son, the 7-year-old, who gets up there and does all his jokes. And I'm like, it's fantastic.
There you go. Yeah, kids, man.
That's it. So dude, I had such a great time today. It was so much fun.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time. I'll put all the links in the show notes too, so everybody has all that stuff. And all your things are on your website or on Instagram or whatever. So I'll link all that stuff as well. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. And
please, if you're watching this, take the time, like my TikTok. Oh, you got TikTok now too. So like my TikToks, like my follow me on all the socials, the Instagram, I think I still have a Twitter. I don't even know. I don't even know if anybody has a Twitter anymore. I think it's all garbage now. I don't know. Yeah, I know. But all the hiccups. All the social media. That's how we nowadays. People don't even look to see how funny you are. They look to see how much following you have. So if you like a comedian or even a little bit like a comedian, go ahead and like their stuff, because you might be the difference between them making it to a gig or not, because people are out there looking. So that's my shameless plug, just not for me, but for everybody that's out there. That's a great one. And like you said, please like and subscribe. If you're listening to this just on like whatever podcast app you're listening to, that's great. But we also have the video version. You can see my ugly face and Rocky's lovely face on YouTube. Go over to YouTube. I know you guys are watching over there, so please like there and subscribe. We keep that growing. We keep getting more people. We keep getting more stuff. This is all for you guys. Yes, it's me interviewing somebody. Like I said, I want to share all this information with the rest of you guys, because some of you might not have the same access that I have. And so if I'm lucky enough to have that access, great. And then I can share it with everyone else. And then I can also bring you new comedians that you guys can enjoy and like their stuff, and it can keep growing. We can all have a wonderful time. So thank you very much, Rocky. Thank you, everybody, for liking and subscribing and listening. Have a good one, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.